Jetzt fertig. Hallo? 1, 2, 1, 2. Dann check.
So, jetzt müsste ich auch zu hören sein. Ich muss kurz einen Gegencheck auf YouTube machen. Jetzt müsste ich auch zu hören sein. Okay, Test 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, Test 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, ich glaube, mein Sound ist etwas suboptimal, aber macht nichts. Gucken momentan NASA Space Flight. Harzner hier. Und ihr hört Bluesmusik im Hintergrund. Das ist der Abschied der Prototypenphase aus meiner Sicht. Okay, ich glaube, mein Sound ist etwas suboptimal, aber macht nichts. Gucken momentan NASA Space Flight. Harzner hier. Und ihr hört im Hintergrund. Das ist der Abschied der Prototypenphase aus meiner Sicht.
Geil!
Ja, wir warten drauf, dass SpaceX live geht.
SpaceX hat vor wenigen Minuten auf Twitter einen Tweet mit einem kleinen Video veröffentlicht, mit dem Weg zum ersten Integrated Flight vom Full Stack, was wir ja jetzt bald sehen werden. In 48 Minuten. Das ist krass.
Auf jeden Fall. Auf einmal geht es so schnell. Ne? Monatelang wartet man drauf und denkt so, ja, Februar vielleicht, März vielleicht, dann April könnte sein und auf einmal bam, Freitag, Fluglizenz, FAA, ja, alles klar, ihr könnt abheben. Und zack, steht das Ding da.
Genau, so geht das. Ja, und gerade ventet S24.
Ja, hab's auch gerade auf dem Schirm.
S24 ist lebendig geworden, ist aufgewacht, auf dem Weg zu seinem größten Abenteuer.
Guten Morgen! Etwas Venting heute? Oh ja, gerne.
Sieben ist jetzt auch schon so langsam wach geworden.
Okay, wir haben noch ungefähr eine Dreiviertelstunde. Ich lasse mal einfach Musik laufen. Das ist ja auch Harzner Radio. Ich hole mir indessen noch was zu trinken. Bisschen Popcorn für die Show. Vielleicht kommt ja noch jemand dazu. Wir sind auf dem Discord, Felix und ich gerade. In Live-Zocken. Wer hier dazu kommt, ihr wisst, you are live on YouTube. Du kannst ja mal in den YouTube-Stream reinhören, ob der Sound okay ist. Vielleicht ein kurzes Feedback geben. Ich bin in einer Minute zurück. Passt das?
Mhm.
Alles klar, bis gleich.
SpaceX ist live.
Ich sehe es gerade. Die machen ja auch Musik, warte mal. Damit habe ich ja gar nicht gerechnet. Schauen wir mal zu. SpaceX.
Moinsen. So, seid ihr auch schon so gespannt?
Ja.
Geiles Intro. Die Hauptdarsteller kommen ja nicht zu kurz.
Sorry, ich hab gerade Bluesmusik an, Full Blast. Was meintest du gerade?
Cooles Video. Und die Hauptdarsteller kommen nicht zu kurz.
Ja, ich habe jetzt am Wochenende ja gerade nochmal 2 Stunden lang echt Mucke rausgesucht und sehr schönen Blues gefunden, passend zum Thema. Guck mal ein bisschen SpaceX, oder?
Mhm.
Big one. Once fully developed, it will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle, with twice the thrust of Saturn V rocket and the ability to carry up to 150 metric tons to orbit.
Oh.
For reference, a 1-liter bottle of water
Was
is
für eine
1 kilogram,
Kameraperspektive
so
gerade.
150 metric tons is basically 150,000 1-liter bottles of water, or, as I like to think of it, one rather lonely blue whale.
Now, today's test will be the first of many as we work towards transitioning Starship from a
Also beim
developmental
Overlay
to
müssen wir
an
nochmal
operational
arbeiten, so ein
program.
bisschen.
Our primary
Oh, was
objective
jetzt
today
sieht
is to
cool aus.
gather as much data as we can around the fully integrated vehicles. That means the booster
Da bin ich sowieso mal
Bilder.
gespannt nachher auf die Kameras am Schiff.
Mhm.
Oh, das sieht so krass aus, ey.
Alle gucken wir vom Tower runter, ne? Vom Dach vom Tower. Gerade eben war das. Jetzt gerade vom Starhopper sind wir gerade. Glaube ich.
If all goes well, today's flight test could last as long as 90 minutes from liftoff to an expected hard ocean landing for Starship. Whether we end the test with a hard landing or a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or some combination of both, excitement is pretty much guaranteed.
Now, if it does all go well, Super Heavy will fire up its 33 Raptor engines and it'll lift off from the launch pad down in South Texas. About
Wollen wir nochmal kurz zusammenfassen, falls Leute jetzt gar nicht wissen, worum es geht?
Ja,
Das
können
ist
wir mal
ja nicht so
versuchen.
häufig. Ich meine, eigentlich sollte es jeder mitbekommen haben.
So there's that. You can see that on your screen. And then it'll boost back in order to make a hard landing in the Gulf of Mexico.
Naja gut, ich meine, SpaceX macht auch gerade einen guten Job.
Ja.
Ich hoffe, die nehmen es mir nicht übel, dass ich einfach mal den Livestream capture und bei uns mitstreame, aber ich glaube,
Mo macht das ja auch.
ja.
Der ist zum Restream freigegeben.
Haha. Hui, was für eine geile Optik. Nein, wie geil.
Ja.
Und ich war vorhin noch im Heise-Forum und natürlich fragt dann irgendwie jeder zweite Depp, der keine Ahnung hat, wie sieht denn die CO2-Bilanz aus? Wie viel Luftverschmutzung macht das denn? Das das Ding ist unterm Strich sauberer als eine Flotte Diesels.
Ich würde sagen, alles was brennt, erzeugt doch automatisch CO2.
Ja, es ist halt nur Methan und Sauerstoff und da kommt auch einfach viel Wasser dabei raus. Das ist sowas Ähnliches wie eine Knallgasmischung. Sauerstoff und Wasserstoff. Also da ist auch CO2 dabei. Es gibt auch Kohlenstoffverbindungen in Methan, aber es ist bei weitem nicht so schmutzig.
Wie RP1 oder sowas.
Ja, wie eben RP1. Also da hatte mich auch mal jemand darauf hingewiesen, der Start von der Falcon 9 ist Sauerstoff und RP1 und das ist Rocket Propellant 1, das ist hochreines Kerosin. Das ist wesentlich schmutziger für die Atmosphäre. Es macht aber eigentlich im Grunde genommen, hatte vorhin das jemand im Heise-Forum ausgerechnet, die gesamte Flugaktivität auf dem Planeten macht ungefähr 2,5% der weltweiten Luftverschmutzung aus und davon ist die Raumfahrt ungefähr 1%. Also wir reden vom Promillebereich. Also ob da so eine Rakete startet oder nicht, das interessiert keinen Frosch in der Gegend.
Mission Control. Es ist Mission Controller in Starbase. In der Nähe.
Hey, das ist doch der Typ von der Falcon Heavy 2017.
Here at SpaceX, and I'm at the Cameron County Amphitheater, where a growing number of SpaceX employees are gathering to watch what we hope is the first liftoff of a fully integrated Starship. Now, the Starship team has worked incredibly hard for today's launch test. Over the past weekend, teams held a launch readiness review, which included a comprehensive review of all of our vehicle systems, looking at avionics, GNC, communications, software, structures, as well as our Raptor engines and propulsion in general. Now, we are only about 5 miles away from the launch pad, so it's a pretty good view for today. And as we get into, as we start to approach T-0, everyone here is clearly very excited for the events that are happening.
Da ist der Tesla-Mann.
So as we get closer to T0, I'm going to throw it back to Hawthorne to talk more about a rocket. Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. And we've actually got a little bit of a crowd forming behind us, too. Now, we've got a shot of Starship on the screen. The entire Starship structure you see is made of stainless steel. And when that's fully stacked, it stands about 120 meters tall and about 9 meters around. To help you give a sense of just how big that is, we've captured a video of some of our teams doing final integration prep work in advance of today's test flight.
Just like Falcon 9, Starship has 2 stages, which we will talk a little bit more about in a minute. But in addition to those 2 stages, Starship actually has a 3rd stage called Stage 0. It consists of all the launch pad infrastructure built around
Ja,
the rocket.
vorbei sind die Zeiten von Bellyflops und explodierenden Prototypen.
It's truly an engineering feat in its own right.
And I feel like it's something
In gewisser Hinsicht auch ein bisschen traurig.
infrastructure that goes into fueling and preparing the launch vehicle before
Könnte heute auch noch passieren,
this, really any launch.
wenn es startet.
Ich höre da so eine leichte Wehmut raus bei Harzner.
The name says it.
Ah, so ein bisschen.
It's heavy, it's super heavy.
Aber man muss sagen, das ist jetzt der erste Starship Livestream von SpaceX für einen Flug, der richtig gut vorbereitet ist.
Mhm.
Und das hat schon irgendwie fast so wie ein Falcon 9 Flug, so ein bisschen.
Na,
So ein bisschen.
ein Falcon-Start ist halt so, es wird langsam zur Normalität.
Ja, das ist jetzt was Besonderes.
Genau.
Aber hat schon den es ist genauso so ähnlich aufgebaut, teilweise so ähnlich aufgebaut wie ein Falcon 9 Start. Also früher war ja nur John Innsbrucker bei SN9 bis SN15. Da, jetzt ist ja mehr zu sehen und zu hören. Boah, Alter, heftig. Das ist mal eine Video.
Ob die Kamera danach noch existiert?
Wer weiß.
Houston, we have lost the camera.
in the center are the ones that are actually going to gimbal and help steer the booster back down for
Geil.
Oh, eine Innenansicht. Hey.
Geil. Komm zu. Cool.
Und mit Licht vor allen Dingen. Keine Nachtsicht, sondern Licht drin.
Also, dass da eine Kamera ist, das wusste ich.
Mo shootet gegen Artemis. Es wird jetzt schon ziemlich warm.
Unser Freund.
Our fuel is liquid methane at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins, or about minus 272 degrees Fahrenheit. Now this is a different fuel from Falcon 9, where we use RP1 kerosene. and our oxidizer is liquid oxygen, the same as Falcon 9. But because there's no oxygen in space to support combustion, we have to bring our own. Now, a little bit of a recap. We did the go, no go poll at T-minus 1 hour and 45 minutes. And once the team gave their goes, we polled about 20 folks. We started loading propellants onto the booster at T-minus 1 hour and 39 minutes. And at T-minus 1 hour and 22 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship, the second stage on Starship. Now, LOX loading of the second stage main tank is almost complete right now, but we'll actually stretch it out and wrap it up and finish at T-minus 5 minutes. And then at T-minus 3 minutes, as the booster finishes loading, the vehicle will be fully loaded with just over 10 million pounds propellant. Now, currently in the countdown, we've just passed the T-minus 26 minute mark. The good news is weather's looking good. You can see the blue skies there on the camera views from the drone. The only thing we're watching is winds. They are within limits at ground level. We expect they may pick up a little bit as we get farther into the window should we need to go that far. But the good news right now is that the weather is looking good. The range also is looking pretty good. We've moved almost all the boats out of the keep out zone overnight. We are working one, but we're still underway. And right now, as a reminder, if for any reason we do not make our test flight today, we have backup launch windows. This could be the 24 or 48 hours after today, and it'll depend on how far we get into the countdown. But coming up on 25 minutes to go, everything is looking good, Kate.
In order to make life multiplanetary, we need a fully reusable vehicle that's capable of carrying a huge amount of cargo and a lot of people to orbit and have a pretty quick turnaround. The idea is to effectively reuse launch vehicles just like airplanes. Crowd is getting excited here in Hawthorne behind Mission Control, as you can hear. Now, imagine if you had to wait for a new airplane to be constructed every time you wanted to fly. You barely go anywhere, and it would probably be pretty unaffordable for people. In order for us to get Mars back with lots of people multiple times, usability is essential.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home here on Earth, Starship will be critical to other programs as well. Once it's operational, Starship will deliver the full-size, upgraded version of our Starlink satellite. And that's super exciting because our next-generation satellites represent a step more Starlink capabilities and will provide more bandwidth and increased reliability to connect millions of people around the world with high-speed internet.
And of course, Starship will fly a number of human spaceflight missions in order to get to our first missions to Mars. Entrepreneur and pilot Jared Isaacman will command the first human spaceflight on Starship as part of the Polaris project. Jared served as a commander for Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to orbit. Inspiration 4 launched aboard our Dragon spacecraft and Falcon 9 in September 2021, raising over $240 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The first human spaceflight on Starship will launch as part of the Polaris program, and you can learn more about that series of missions at polarisprogram.com.
Now, our first lunar mission around the moon aboard Starship will be led by Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa, also known as MZ. MZ flew to space for the first time in December 2021, and he purchased all of the seats aboard Starship's first lunar mission in order to give artists and creators from all over the world the opportunity to go. And the hope is that what they will create in space will further inspire all of us here back on planet Earth. Now, over 1 million people applied for this mission, and earlier this year, they announced the final 8 crew members were selected, and you can learn more about them and MZ's mission at dearmoon.earth.
Dennis and Akiko Tito are the first 2 crew members announced to fly on Starship's second commercial spaceflight around the moon. This will be Dennis's second mission to space after becoming the first commercial astronaut to visit the International Space Station in 2001, and Akiko will be among the first women to fly around the moon on a Starship. The Titos joined the mission to contribute to SpaceX's long-term goal to advance human spaceflight and help make life multiplanetary.
SpaceX is also incredibly honored to be part of NASA's Artemis program to establish a sustainable presence on the moon to prepare for missions to Mars. Starship's early test launches, followed by those regular Starlink deployment missions and propellant transfer demonstrations, are directly advancing NASA's Artemis program, along with SpaceX's ongoing mission to make life multiplanetary.
SpaceX will conduct an uncrewed demonstration mission to the moon prior to the Artemis 3 mission, which will mark humanity's first return to the lunar surface in more than 50 years. It's an exciting future, but let's talk a little about how we got to today.
Now, Starship testing ramped up in July of 2019 with the Star Hopper prototype. It's sort of a short version of the Starship that we see today. There's a picture of it on your screen, the lovable water tower. Now, standing at just over 18 meters tall, the Star Hopper had a single engine and was test flown to perform landing and low-level altitude maneuvers. Starship's initial flight test was a hop that reached about 20 meters in altitude. This was followed by a second hop.
Tests with earlier prototypes, the Starship program saw a huge breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. SN8 demonstrated a first-of-its-kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. Yes, I'm talking about the belly flop. This 12.5-kilometer hop test took place December 2020 and saw the SN8 prototype ascend to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers and conduct a belly flop maneuver. While it didn't stick the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship.
I love seeing the belly flop maneuver. Testing continued with the prototype on serial number 9. That was a 10-kilometer flight test in February of 2021. We had a nominal ascent, engine cutoff, reorientation, and controlled descent were stable. However, we unfortunately had a dramatic ending to the end of that flight when we had a failure on its engine to relight. That resulted in one of those rapid unscheduled disassemblies. But what was really, really exciting about both serial numbers 8 and 9 is how quickly we were able to achieve just our primary objectives in those two high-altitude test flights. In addition to getting lots of great data, Starship successfully demonstrated control of the vehicle and subsonic re-entry capability.
Ultimately, we performed 9 Starship high-altitude test flights in total, and in May of 2021, SN15 launched from Starbase, reached an altitude of about 10 kilometers, performed a number of maneuvers, and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and to be recovered in one piece.
Now, having achieved that success in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges for upper stage reusability is to survive the high-heating hypersonic phase of entry. Combined with the ability to refill our Starship's tank with fuel and oxygen while on orbit is what will enable a fully reusable transportation system that's designed to carry both crew and cargo on these long-duration interplanetary flights that ultimately will help humanity.
Stillstand ist schon echt weit. Ich meine, in einer Minute wird der Engine clear sein.
Okay. Endspurt, würde ich sagen.
Most recently, we began loading liquid oxygen and methane fuel into the header tanks on Starship. At the very top, just underneath the nose there are 2 small spherical tanks. That's where the fuel and liquid oxygen header tanks are. That started at T-minus 27 minutes, and that propellant loading will continue until
Kein Start, glaube ich.
Was nochmal bitte?
Ich glaube, es gibt keinen Start heute.
Was sagt ihr das?
Glaube ich. Das schreiben die hier in Starship gerade. Gibt es anscheinend Probleme beim Booster, bei der 7.
The liquid oxygen and methane that are going into the second stage go through that fifth disconnect. You can see in some of the views the arm that comes out just at the base of the second stage. Now to move out of the way as we lift off. At the same time, the SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard. They're working one boat that's in the safety perimeter. They are working to get that boat out of the way. We cleared several other boats out overnight. We're down to one, and we expect that'll be clear so that we can proceed with launch out over the Gulf of Mexico. But as a reminder, T-minus 15 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We are working an issue on the first stage and will bring an update as we get more insight into that issue.
Now, today's test flight is taking place out of our Starbase facility in South Texas, and that facility has gone through a tremendous amount of change and growth in a really short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years ago, not much even existed
Ja,
there.
mein Intro hat hier gesagt, es gibt bei der B7 wohl ein Problem, ein Druckproblem.
Ja, okay.
Yeah, last year they built 4 Starship Super Heavy boosters, 5 Starships, our 200th Raptor 2 engine, and this year they're targeting 5 boosters, 8 Starships in production for 2023. And really, you do need a production system to rapidly iterate, like we were talking about earlier, on the design of the vehicle as we learn more about it from these large tests.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulling on my industrial engineering background, system fill is something that is critical to that goal. Being able to produce and launch multiple Starships means that we have to have a system full of those production vehicles, and we iterate on each one. So even the next Starship that will fly in whatever the next test is will be different than the one that you see there on your screen now.
Now, the employees who have been at SpaceX a while say that Starbase does remind them of the early Falcon 1 days, except moving a whole lot faster.
The team at Starbase is expanding as fast as the facilities are, and if you've ever wondered what life at Starbase is like, here's a quick peek.
Der Countdown läuft weiter. Sie versuchen das Problem irgendwie noch zu lösen.
Okay, da ein bisschen zuhören.
From that video, you can really tell, like, it's a beautiful location. It's close to the ocean. There's tons of wildlife. And that's because being close to the equator is actually a fantastic way to get to orbit.
Yeah, I love that we have so many employee events that allow us to participate with ocean cleanup and other environmental efforts there. We'd also like to thank Cameron County for being so supportive for all of our work in that area. Now, in addition to Starbase, we'll soon be adding another Texas location to the SpaceX family. We're opening a new facility in Bastrop, Texas, just outside of Austin, to support Starlink hardware production. The new facility will be over 500,000 square feet of manufacturing space, and the team has already started hiring.
Now we have all kinds of openings in production and manufacturing for technicians and leadership and manufacturing engineers and all kinds of site support roles. Basically, if you can think of a role, we're probably hiring for it.
So if you're interested in helping expand human life to other planets or helping internet access here on Earth, consider becoming part of the SpaceX team at spacex.com/careers. Now, with that, let's check back in with Zach down at Starbase one last time before launch. Howdy, Zach.
Hello, Kate and Shiva again. You can really feel the energy here at South Padre Island as more of the SpaceX team have gathered. We're standing just over 5 miles away from the launch mount, and so from here we've got a very nice view. I would basically say these are some of the best front row seats you could get, and might I add, beachside as well. Now, the Starship team has worked incredibly hard to get ready for this test, and we're all clearly excited for T0. And as we get into the final moments, one issue that could hold the countdown or cancel the test altogether is if a boat enters the safety perimeter. Now, over my shoulder is the Gulf of Mexico, which is normally very open to all of the boaters and fishers. However, today, SpaceX is closely coordinating with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safe zone and ensure public safety. And up to T0, SpaceX is in regular communication with the Coast Guard to ensure there are no boats in the area leading up to the launch. Now, fingers crossed that does not happen. Now, I'll throw it back to the folks at Hawthorne as we get closer and closer to that T-0.
9 Minuten.
Ja.
Die Person, die da jetzt hinrennen muss.
Um was zu tun?
Just inside T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
Oder kannst du das alles doch vom
We're listening
Computer
on one of
auslösen?
the background loops right now. Flight
Keine
director
Ahnung.
is
Ich weiß
talking
ja nicht,
about
was
the
das genau
issue
für ein
we've had
Problem
on
ist.
first stage,
Nur, dass es irgendwas mit dem
working the
Druck zu tun hat.
pressurization system.
Und dahin,
Decision
da
right now
reist jetzt
is
keiner
that
hin.
we
Das ist
are
eine Gefahrenzone.
stop the launch for today.
Wird gewürfelt.
The launch attempt to a wet dress rehearsal. So that means we're going to continue with the countdown
Abort.
sequence of events. We'll continue loading propellant, finishing up here shortly on
Mann, Felix, du immer mit deinem Abort, du bist so negativ.
Ich habe extra früher Feierabend gemacht.
Das dampft und zischt doch alles noch. Komm, Daumen drücken. Oh. Schreibt aber auch Thorsten, dass das vielleicht ein Abbruch wird. Hören wir noch mal ein bisschen rein.
Also Mo hat gerade gesagt, Abbruch.
It's
nur ein Red Dress.
Now when both stages are loaded, you can see the condensation frost on the side of the first stage. We'll have just over 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board. Inside T-minus 7 minutes, we're continuing to count. Team is preparing for the hold and scrub at T-minus 10 seconds. Now the good news is everything's been going good. We're just working that one issue. So we are continuing to count. Team will get this as an excellent opportunity to run the end-to-end of the system. Now in a launch, in the next few minutes, the guidance system would be performing its final alignment. We will be doing that this morning. The automated flight termination system would be armed. We won't need to arm it today as we won't be flying, and we'll do final thrust vector control checkouts, what we call wiggles of the Raptor engines on the first and second stages.
Okay, dann
Now, normally in a
hören wir mal ein
countdown,
bisschen
if we needed
Bluesmusik.
to
Das
hold,
wird heute
here's a
nichts
view
mehr.
of the second stage Raptor engines, just above the first stage.
Ein Druckdämpfer
Now,
ist
as I
halt
mentioned,
eingefroren
in a
zu
regular
sein.
countdown, if we needed to hold, that would come at T-minus 40 seconds. That's the point in the countdown where we can pause to wait for final checkouts or pressurization to complete. Earlier this morning, we thought we might have to hold at 40 seconds. Everything's looking good, except for the one pressurization issue that the team is going to have to troubleshoot after this morning. So we won't stop at 40 seconds right now. We'll continue all the way down to 10 seconds, and then we'll go into a recycle.
Into a wet dress rehearsal here, and I actually
Now we're
think
coming up T-minus 5 minutes. Overall, though, Kate Shiva, it's been a good day. It's a little sad listening to the flight director say that we're going to have to stop at 10 seconds. But I guess that's for everybody. It gives us a real run-through of the launch vehicle.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Of course, we wanted to see fire today and lift off. But that's okay. The point of the countdown is to allow the teams to progress to that T0 time in a coordinated fashion and really to unveil any issues prior to the ignition sequence. So the countdown did its job today. It allowed us to identify that press issue, and like John mentioned, the teams are going to work through it, and we are going to basically call it off at T-minus 10 seconds. But the integrated launch teams and us, we are going to treat this as if it were still a launch day. We're going to do this, what we now call a wet dress rehearsal.
Yeah, and we've mentioned the term a couple of times here. We call it a wet dress rehearsal because we are wetting the propellant tanks. We are loading propellant into the vehicle. We've talked about the frost line a little bit here. That exercises the stage 0 system, the ground system, all of our infrastructure that loads propellants onto the pad. That exercises our procedures for the mission control teams. We're monitoring telemetry on the mission control consoles, looking at the pressures and the rates and the temperatures. And some of those things.
Tja Leute, dann heißt das wohl für heute, wir können dann den Stream auch beenden, da wird heute nichts mehr starten. Es wird noch ein Wet Dress Rehearsal geben, aber ein Start heute nicht mehr.
Gimbal-Test.
Jo.
Geil.
Na, dann schauen wir nochmal, was in 40 Sekunden passiert. Obwohl, Countdown steht.
In the end, they will release that hold. We'll go the last 30 seconds. But yes, when we do get to day of launch, the last thing to look at is in the last 6 seconds, light the Raptor engines in succession. So unlike Falcon 9, we're going to have to do that a little longer. We're hearing right now the clock is going to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds. The Super Heavy and Starship are looking good. So with that, Kate, it's been a fast-paced morning. We got through it fairly quickly. But at this point, we're going to have to call it a morning.
Yeah, that's right. So for those of you that have recently just joined us, we unfortunately had a hold on the countdown today, and that is going to scrub our launch attempt. But we are expecting a minimum of 48 hours in order to recycle. So be sure to keep an eye on our social channels, and we'll share information as soon as it becomes available. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Ja, das ist viel zu positiv. Ich muss was Trauriges spielen jetzt zum Schluss.
Aber mal ehrlich, besser einen Scrub als eine Explosion.
Ja, klar. Und man muss positiv sagen, dass es nur das als dass das nicht so gut, dass da jetzt nur ein Problem, dass es nur das einzige Problem ist. Dass bei P7 nur ein Ventil eingefroren ist. Alles andere lief gut.
Geh mal von aus, dass das ein Treibstoffventil war. Und wenn das ein Treibstoffventil war, dann wäre es schlimm gewesen, wenn wir das übersehen hätten.
Ja.
Weil dann wäre Treibstoff ausgetreten, das hätte sich unten am Raptor entzündet und dann hätte das Ding Bumm gemacht.
Ja.
Also da kann man eigentlich froh sein, dass das Ding heute gescrubbt wurde in dem Fall mal.
Es kann ja auch ein anderes Ventil gewesen sein.
Ja, aber wenn's sowas war, aber...
Ja, kann aber auch irgendein anderes Vent gewesen sein, das eingefroren ist. Wir haben ja einige. Da konnte man ja so sagen, dann haben dieses Launch Rehearsal, Wet Rehearsal jetzt doch noch gemacht heute. Also, was sie ja eigentlich abgesagt hatten. Also.
Na gut, meine Freunde, dann...
Nächster Versuch wäre dann tatsächlich frühestens Mittwoch.
Na gut, wir können uns aber heute Abend auf eine astronomische Einheit freuen um 20:30 Uhr. Link ist unten in der Description. Schauen wir mal rein, was Video Space News, Hannes Nerd Night, Albrecht von Elon Time und Thorsten von Orbital Plausch zu sagen haben.
Wie gesagt,
heute raus, ne?
Ich hab ihn heute Morgen gefragt gehabt, was er machen wird, wenn Starship heute nicht... Was jetzt natürlich passiert ist, was jetzt heute eingetreten ist.
Ah ja.
Wenn ja heute... habe ich gesagt, entweder sollen sie es verschieben, alle sollen wir es verschieben. Was würdest du tun oder was würdest du vorschlagen? Ich habe gesagt, entweder verschieben oder noch weitere News zu dem Start. Weitere Fragen, sonstiges habe ich ihm geschrieben, aber mal gucken. Weil Aber jetzt kann ich mich endlich mal hinlegen. Das ist müde.
Trotzdem krasse Optik. Schön, dass ihr dabei wart. Ich beende dann mal den Stream.
Ja.
Und wir sehen uns dann demnächst hier wieder. Ich würde es beim nächsten Mal genauso machen. Schauen wir einfach, was die Zukunft bringt.
Ja.
Tschüss, bis zum nächsten Mal.
Bis dann. Ciao.
Bis dann.